think many of us know. And I will be introducing, for those of you who don't know his background and so forth, Jeff Kingman. All right, I received a bio from Jeff, and he says that Jeffrey Kingman lives by the Napa River in Vallejo. And after writing a book of short stories and a novel, he instead began to write only poetry and has not looked back. His poetry collection, Beyond That Hill I Gather, was published by Finishing Line Press in June of 2021. And he was the winner of the 2018 Islands Book Award for an unpublished poetry book and a finalist in the 2018 Hillary Gravendyke Poetry Book Competition. He has poems published in Pank, Clackamas Literary Review, Visitant, and others. He is a copy editor at Omnidawn Publishing. He has a master's degree in music composition and has been playing drums in rock bands most of his life. So, Jeff, the first question that just comes screaming off the page at me is, do you see a connection between playing drums in rock bands and writing poetry?
Well, I think there are all kinds of connections with the various mediums in the arts. And so, yeah, when I was in college, I actually I had a little project where I recorded myself playing the drums and then reciting Lawrence Ferlinghetti, and then overdubbing the drum part onto it as a sort of accompaniment. So I guess that's the most connection I've had with poetry and drums. But,
okay, all right. Well, we always wonder how these different parts of the creative psyche work out with each other and harmonize or don't. So thank you for that insight. And it sounds like you've always written also. How did you start writing, and how did you switch from short stories to poetry?
Well, actually, I didn't really start writing seriously until around 1999 or so.
Okay.
And so I wanted to write fiction, and that was my first impulse. So I wrote short stories and a novel, and then I got interested in poetry largely because I had a friend and coworker where I worked at the library in Vallejo, and she had recently gotten her MFA in poetry, and so she started to introduce me to poetry because I came to poetry very late in life. I was about 50 years old when I started to read and write poetry. And so it's kind of, I feel like I'm always playing catch up as far as my reading, I was always reading fiction and other things. And so reading the classics and keeping up with the modern poetry, it's just a lot of reading to do, but I've been really enjoying it. And I think it took me a while, but I found what really is a great passion for me, and that is poetry.
Okay, well, thank you so much. And we would really like to hear some of your poetry, and we'll be very attentive.
Well, great. Well, thanks you so much for inviting me to read tonight. I'm really honored to be able to do that. And so I will get started. So the book, as was mentioned, the book that I had published in 2021, I'm just going to read one poem from that, and then really I'm going to read mostly from a new manuscript that I'm just about finishing up. And so that's what I'm kind of excited about reading. I think poets often like to, they're most excited about reading their most recent work. So the book Beyond That Hill I Gather, this one came out in 2021. It contains portrait poems of notable women. And so this poem is about Sophia Duleep Singh, who was a princess from India who grew up in England in the very early 20th century. And she was an important figure in the suffragist movement there. So she was quite an activist. So this poem is called Marching. I'll need my glasses, I think, for this. Marching. The voice rattles, a high window, the lyric ricochets, then straightens to the upper register. Breath comes from the diaphragm for the belters, on occasion the belly. Trailing skirts out of fashion, wives sing wild, wrapped in bed sheets. To jump from a crawling baby is not a dance. Talk of a women's parliament. Words are for lemmings, feet do the work, until the pointlessness is stiff-limbed. Dogged bobbies, the street scuffle and avant-garde ballet. She fell down during the struggle, mud on her dress. Okay, and then on to the newer stuff. So this newer manuscript is called Geese Flying Through a Small Octagonal Window. And first one is called What Choice Do We Have? As we gather together to celebrate the solar eclipse, it occurs to me stars don't know how to constellate. Not one has ever succeeded. A gathering is one thing, but is together so unlikely? We can only look at the sun through this cardboard box, or else go blind. If you're close to me, I call you human. What do I call you if you're far away?
Okay.
Can I turn it off here? You're going out.
Next one is called Do You Read Me? Is Vonnegut for children? It does say junior on the cover. Our son can soak in these tones, his blood receptive. I'm good at soaking in the bell tone of your voice, if I'm not thinking. When trying, I fumble, a dumb kid, loop of string thrown to the ground. If the sky crumbles into blue chunks, no one will know how to listen, but you will tell them, how pretty the blue, your voice peeling as we're pushed into dirt. My first visit to the attic. I open the ceiling, the attic steps. Halloween skeleton falls out, clatters along the unfolding steps to the floor. When I get up there, what will I do? Will I have to duck from the low slanted ceiling? Will it be hot and dry? Will it smell like hot, dry wood? Will there be a streamer of sunlight from the tiny window? Maybe a box of bayonets, a summer hat on a peg, red shape in the dark corner, pulsating as if alive, or a mirror with dented frame leaning against the wall, looking up at myself. In the hallway, I slide the skeleton aside, peer up into the square of darkness, take the first step up the ladder. Sonora. In a sterile room, you won't think of it. No one is here, not even the you thought you were. Just a bed and a clock. Gideon stopped supplying Bibles. It's hot outside, ground squirrels on either side of that fence. If you went out there, climbed over it, holes pocking the sandy earth. But you are inside. Think about eating an apple. The stories are beyond you, secondhand versions, Moses and that. You drove a long way after the funeral. During your hike, a bird flew in a straight line, so quiet you could hear the air against its wings. In the bathroom, you can only take one tissue at a time. The box is locked in the wall. Maybe if you call your sister, she can talk you out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Wanderer. As the air gets cooler, the sky gets louder. Lizards fluff the dirt. I hike up my socks with lightning bolts. Backpack gets heavier as the path steepens, as the clouds exceed the limit. Why do we use badger as a verb? Badgers don't do anything wrong. Definition of human, have to look it up. Most animals will abandon a deformed offspring. Dolphins catch food for the physically challenged. There's a one-legged hiker up on the path, 3 if you count the crutches. How could I even know if I don't like him? The wind's picking up, and thunder weaves itself into the fabric of my coat. Dry weather. Before dawn, the water drips. Citrus trees, purple flowers drink from black tubes. Morning comes, the sky orange, pink, then bright white. Not a single leaf flutters, the air quiet and warm and perfect, but for the call of one scrub jay far away. Will the end present itself somewhere? When? And this is the title poem from the manuscript called Geese Flying Through a Small Octagonal Window. Through a small octagonal window, a little something. Tip of a bare branch, black shingled roof, momentary starling, brief flutter. Invisible all the rest. Put your cheek on the glass. A tunnel is dark, exit at either end, autumnal dusk. Up, floating parade, geese honking by, off north, slate sky, no trees or roofs. Down, open field, goose and goslings hunch, eating grass. Gander is the lookout, neck a periscope, looking for trouble. North isn't a thing. You're stuck. Stay tuned. While I was dreaming it up, I went for a walk. When boys start a fight, there's a loud noise. It's a common word, something you see every day. At the end of the play, he asks the audience, your money or your life? That's what a sledgehammer is for. Last night, I saw my high school crush walking onto a bus. I've been brought in for warming. Things never last, and I get disappointed. There's more love in the world than we know what to do with. Proximity. Pile onto the school bus for a field trip to the cemetery. Scritching of pencils on headstones. Here's a winged cherub. Atop a telephone pole, a cuckoo says, cuckoo, 15 times before taking a breather. The kids don't care what time it is. It's nap time, says the teacher. Put down your pencils. Don't lie on top of a grave. Find a spot in between. But the children lose patience and get back on the bus. It takes 2 to operate the giant steering wheel and a 3rd for the pedals. At 7-Eleven, they eat ice cream. When they report their teacher missing, a search team goes out. It takes only a few minutes for the dogs to discover one of the coffins is haunted. A closeness in the air as rain clouds cross the sky and a light rain sprinkles the town. One of the cops talks and talks about how lovely the spring blossoms are on those plum trees, shaking his head in disbelief. And this next one is probably the shortest poem I've ever written. It's called Our Physical Nature. When puzzling something, your lips scrunch to the side. But if I want to kiss you, all I can do is think about it. Stephanie. If you say goodbye to a house, the house waves back. But she didn't get the chance. She was away when her folks got kicked out way back when. Nostalgia is a 12-year-old thing. 7 was forever ago. Sure, you can take a look. Come on in. Yep, we got rid of the old wooden gate. She remembered the laundry chute to the basement. She'd wanted to drop a kitten down it to watch it land on a puff of towels. The whole litter escaped through a hole in the screen door. She pointed out the window her stepdad sent an ashtray crashing through. Hell of a noise, I bet. Scared you? 8 years later, Stephanie happened to rent the house across the street. It was her dream to join the Coast Guard. Took a test, had an interview, but they didn't like her tattoos. She cried about it. Before long, she moved out. This time, her own choice. I don't know if the house waved goodbye. She probably doesn't care about that kind of thing anymore. Sunday. I transferred the jade from the pot to the ground, dirt soft from early rain. After trimming the wild-growing jasmine and the 2 trumpet vines and weeding the crabgrass, that's what I call it, but really it's something else, the piles are more than will fit in the waste bin. I'm tired. I sit on the front porch, rocking. Jim's humongous pickup truck idles across the street, parks the wrong way, pointing at a sedan, both hoods raised. Truck sounds like an 18-wheeler. He revs it, then gets out, notices his front tire's flat. He kicks it, walks toward his house, weaving, drunk. 5 more minutes, exhaust fumes wafting at me. I get up and cross the street, walk up his steps. Front door's wide open. At the threshold, I call to him, "Turn that thing off." He comes at me, fist raised. I duck his sloppy swing. There's a tire iron lying on the porch, but I head down the steps, reach in the truck, turn off the engine. Back at my porch, I sit back down on the rocking chair, rest a moment. I open my eyes, see Jim sitting on his steps, slumped over, arms on his knees. His brother steps out, sits down too, looks at Jim and starts talking to him, like a heart-to-heart. Tomorrow, I'll go buy that camellia I've been wanting to plant, and I need mulch for the lemon trees. That's the plan. We're just getting too old for all that other shit. Not a foreign language. The multi-trunk crepe myrtle, multilingual, eloquent, reveals its shortcomings to the Chinese pistache, ashamed not to know the name of the color of its own flowers. A word for every little thing. Say out loud, tell it. Showing isn't enough, showing is constant. Pistache sees it all, can't look away. A word is even better than a flower. Talk and talk, crepe myrtle, talk until a word comes out of your tallest branch. Carnelian, telemagenta, Spanish carmine, yellow orange, frostbite, amber, opera mauve, grenadier, iris, wintergreen dream. Of the slender trunks, one is the thickest. Not a noun, but a verb. Everything's a verb if we listen closely. The rings sing out, a reddish lullaby of autumn, singing to the reeds in the river, to childhoods of ice, light steel blue, evanescent blue. Singing inward, each atom an extravagant project breaking the buffer. Sliced peaches in a green bowl through a microscope with cinnamon satin and cream. Experience required. Tiny pebble rolls along the hardwood floor, a sound so crisp and brittle, even a deaf person can hear it. He begins to move his lips to form an unheard word. We can't read it. Consonants are formed inside the mouth. Lips remain open, hard to see. Cat swats the pebble along the floor as a puck on ice. We can see this and hear it, inside the house and out on the rink. Our backs turned, ears plugged. Okay, just a couple more here. This one's called Expedition. Try to keep people in a room, and what happens? Bones fly. I tell my friends to stay safe. How do you feel, Mr. Rogers? As if it were settled. But, said the father, it won't be fine. So much depends upon distance, whether people are near or far. I've put the world in a box for now to keep astronauts from leaving. The day they went off to the moon, I was sad. Okay, and I'll finish up with this one called History. Young family out for a walk. Mother's eyes distant, ruminating. Baby in her arms has the same face, but eyes more intent on the present. Father is accepting, holds little boy's hand. A boy who is silly, goofing as little boys do. And with his eyes crossed, he looks a little odd. When the father tells us the boy is developmentally delayed, we feel bad for not knowing what to say. In 60 years, the historical record will report, in 2022, they were harmful to each other because they didn't know any better. In 60 years, there will still be war, like the one we're enduring right now, or worse. They'll look back and think we didn't understand ourselves. But we do know. We always know. Thank you so much.
And let's go ahead and unmute so we can do a little bit of clamoring approval here.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Loved
Jeff.
it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bravo.
Much
Thank
appreciated.
you.
Much
Thank you so
appreciated.
much.
Thank you.
It's so great to read today. Thank you so much for having me, Mary Susan.
Well, I'd been looking forward to this for a while, and I'm glad we were able to arrange it. And you should read the chat comments.
Yeah, so
They
now
are very insightful.
I'll have a
And,
chance to do that.
Yes,
Yeah,
and do that, and you can save them if you want. But yes, I was just struck by how much of a story you tell in each short poem. It's
Well, thank
quite a
you.
gift. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks very much. Can I make one little announcement too before
Sure.
Along with Karen Finley of the Alibi Bookshop in Vallejo, I'm organizing a series of poetry readings during April Poetry Month.
Okay.
And so stay tuned for dates and specifics on that. One of the events is going to feature young poets, like junior high and high school level.
Oh, good.
So yeah, and I'm having a little trouble getting the word out to the high school students. So if anyone has any in with Vallejo High teachers or students or anything like that, please let me know. I'll put my email address in the chat there. So
Good.
okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'll look forward to those readings.
Yeah.